Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of Bold Conversations with the Pioneers. My name is Lynda and with me in the studio today is
Shine Awaritoma,
Frank Elo,
Chidi Ernest,
Masigimo.
You're very welcome to the show today. And if you're wondering who the Pioneers are, I'm going to enlighten you in a bit. This channel was put together by the Pioneers, and we are a team of real estate experts right here in Lagos. Now, what we have decided to do with this channel is to give value, to enlighten, to educate, and also to analyze everything that has to do with real estate right here in the Lagos real estate market. Now, I know that this is of huge benefit to you. So all you have to do to be a part of this show is to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so you do not miss out on any content we put out, because trust me, we are going to be distributing and dishing out lots of contents as it pertains to real estate in the Lagos real estate market. So now that we have the introductions out of the way, are you guys ready for today's conversation?
Yes.
I hope you brought in your A game. By the way, you guys look so good. I hope your conversation this morning is also going to look as great as you look. So we are going to be talking about, a series from the Big Issue series. And this is very relatable because we are all experts in the industry. So we have to, give these clients a bit of feedback from our experiences and our knowledge from the real estate market. So a client called in and he has a very particular question. And like I said, it's relatable because I know a lot of clients also face the same scenario. So I'm just going to give you his question, how he gave it to me. Are you guys ready?
Yes. Ready.
So he says, why can't I sell my land 5 years after purchase? I'm going to try to bring this to context, right? This client bought his land 5 years ago and he bought it in Shongotedo. Now he's trying to resell, and this is typical because a lot of clients who buy real estate, they have different goals. Some want to buy and build, some want to buy and hold, and some want to buy and resell. And this is where this client is right now. He's at the verge of reselling his land, and he's been going everywhere, engaging a lot of people, trying to sell his property. 5 years, this is when he bought it, and right now he's unable to sell for a land he bought in Shongotedo. And he's asking, so what's all the fuss about real estate? Why is there so much buzz about real estate when I can buy a property 5 years ago and now I'm ready to resell and I cannot resell? So my first question to you, Chidi, why can't this client resell his land 5 years after purchase?
Well, thank you, Linda. In real estate, there is something called real estate investment. There is something called property appreciation and property maturity. Although a lot of people argue this, they say that it's the same, property appreciation and property maturity.
Is it not the same?
Well, when we look at it critically and we look at it logically, they are not the same.
Okay.
This is why I said that. Property appreciation is when the property in a certain location is appreciating in value. Like, for instance, you buy for 500,000 and the property moved from 500,000 to 1 million to 1.5, 2 million, 2.5. That property is appreciating.
Okay.
But maturity is when this property that is being appreciating can be sold. I think, for instance, in this Shongotedo,
Yeah.
and for about 2018, there are some property around Shongotedo that was sold to people, to investors like him, and some areas the property has appreciated and also mature. That means those who bought that property can sell the property. But in certain locations in Shongotedo too, the property, though because of the development around, the property is appreciated, but it cannot sell because it's an emerging location. The property is appreciating, but it cannot sell the property. I believe during our conversation, we may find out the reason why it's not able to.
So we don't even have an answer from you. You can't even tell anything right now because you just clearly different.
For me, in the case of this client, the property has appreciated,
But it has not matured.
matured.
So which is one of the reasons why he most likely has not been able to sell.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And also considering the fact that this is an emerging market, like you clearly stated, we have certain properties that have appreciated and matured. and those clients can actually sell. But in this case, it has definitely appreciated because 5 years ago till now, definitely he has made some money off this property, but he still cannot sell because it has not matured. Over to you, Frank. So talking about appreciation, if you're looking at, for instance, let's say he bought this property at 3.5 million, I'm saying instance, and right now he's selling at 7.5, he has appreciated, right? Now, this client is actually willing to sell even below the market price because he's desperate for money. He wants to sell and get money. Now, from what Chidi has said, this property has appreciated. So what are the factors that would make a property actually appreciate? Because it has appreciated, but not matured.
Thank you very much, Linda. I'm going to lay emphasis on two particular areas, which is the internal development and external development. So for internal development, this means that the developers or the people who sold this property to these clients that you're talking about right now have to do some kind of infrastructure within the estate, which includes fencing, which includes road network, security, electricity, and also water availability. So these are factors within or internal factors that also help properties to appreciate. Secondly, you have the external development, and this includes government policies or government projects that support this property. This client, you said, is in Shongotedo, I guess. So let's say we have the major road, which is the Lekki Express Road, is a government infrastructure. Now, I also believe that the government, through its private-public partnership, can come up with infrastructures that could support properties within this location. So I don't know exactly where this estate is located. I don't know if there is any project by the government physically on the area where his property is located. But if you're looking at external development, that is government infrastructure or private individuals who come up to do development within the estate. And when you have the internal development from the real estate company and you have the external development from the government or private individuals, then surely I believe that he could be able to sell this property because either ways, there is value being added to this property and he can be able to sell it.
Okay, thank you very much. So from what I can get from everything you have said, for a property to appreciate, there has to be a fine fusion of internally driven infrastructure by the developer and the external one from the government. Mercy, talk to me about maturity. Now, from this scenario, we can tell that this property has definitely appreciated. So when does this property mature and when is the right time for this client to sell his property?
Thank you, Linda. Basically, most times there's this saying that, buy land and wait. So, irrespective of the location you have bought that property, different property, they react differently, to, how am I going to put it now? Let's say, for instance, there's a client of ours who bought a property in Carry Creek. Carry Creek is in Osaka, London. And everybody knows that Carry Creek is, it's a big area. And that was like 2 years ago. Because we were talking to her to buy a property and she was just complaining bitterly, they bought property in Carry Creek with all the noise that came with Carry Creek. The property is not appreciating and all that stuff. Just 2 years ago, I think land was still selling for around like 80 million or thereabouts. I can't remember precisely, but she was complaining bitterly that it was not matured, to resell. But 2 years down the line, property in Carry Creek went to as much as 200 and something million. And so we actually had demand for people who wanted, developers started going in there. And we approached her that, madam, you were complaining about this land. Would you want to sell? She was like, she cannot sell. And so there have to be a waiting period irrespective, because you mentioned that this client bought this property in Shongotedo. Yes. Everybody knows that, Shongotedo, there's been a lot of noise about Shongotedo, especially with the emergence of the Novel Mall, since he said he bought it around 5 years ago. Yeah. So that was one of the, one of the drivers why people bought land in Shongotedu at that time. And so, irrespective of the fact that, like he said, some people's property has appreciated and also matured and they've resold in Shongotedu, but because of where his property is located, it has not matured yet, because there are certain things that brings about the property matures and you'll be able to sell. So for me, the client still needs to wait, because for real estate, the more you wait, the better the gain. Okay, like this person who waited, who was already complaining for Carry Creek, despite the fact that Carry Creek was a very good location and all that, but they still had to wait. You can imagine something that was selling for around 80 million, and in the next 2 years you're talking about 200 and something million. That is huge. So you can imagine if the person got fed up and said, no need for me to wait, let me just sell this property off at 80 something million, and now the property is 200 and something million, because the person waited and she's not even willing to sell now. So as an investor, there's this waiting. He still has to wait. That's it basically.
So something caught my attention from what you said. In real estate, the longer you wait, the better. So liken it to fine wine. The older, the better. Now, I hope you've been gaining something so far. Don't forget that for you to be a part of this conversation, for you to catch up on all our content, you just need to hit that subscribe button. Just touch it right now, and turn your post notifications so you're aware when we make a new post. Now, over to you, Shine. Now, there's something particular about emerging markets, because we're looking at Shongotedu in details. One of the things about emerging markets is the fact that the properties are still basically in primary stages. So you have a lot of people who have bought real estate at the initial stage. And I'm sure right now in Shongotedu, we still have some developers who still have some properties that they have not yet sold. So it is still circulating within the primary stage. Now, my next question to you is, Shine, when is the right time for a secondary sale to happen?
Thank you very much, Lynda. You see, what drives secondary sales is demand. And what brings about demand is scarcity, infrastructure, and development. At this point, this client is unable to sell his property, maybe because the company still has some plots to sell, or maybe the community where the property is located is not developed. Just like Mr. Frank rightly said, that there needs to be an internal development and also an external development. There are some things that needs to be put to place in the estate or where the property is located or the community in order for the clients to be able to sell the property. For example, he made mention of electricity, road network, drainage system. People buy properties for different reasons. Yeah. There are some people that want to buy a property to build. I want to buy and build and live inside with my family. So in this case that this client is looking for a buyer, the location of the property or where the property is located is not developed. There's no there's no development. There's nothing going on right now in the property, on the property or the estate. So it will be very difficult for such clients to sell or for a secondary sale to happen. There has to be development. The property has to be developed, or the community
has to be well developed, and there also has to be a demand for it, such that everybody wants a piece of that cake. Like she rightly said, now in Carry Creek, a lot of people want a property. So if you have a property there, you can actually hold and say, oh no, I'm not going to sell until I get the highest bidder. Okay, so I'm just hearing maturity, appreciation. Is there a wait period for investors? Is there a wait period for real estate? So if we are looking at 5 years, I mean, why should I wait further? Is there like because 5 years ago there was a lot of buzz about Shongotedu being emerging, and this is 5 years down the line. We are still talking about emerging markets. So which areas in Shongotedu are mature? Which areas are still appreciating? Is there a wait period for real estate generally? How long should a client wait or an investor wait who is coming to invest in Shongotedu? How long should I wait before I can resell? I mean, we need answers.
Okay. If you look at this client in question, what I understand here is that the clients do not understand his or her investment, I don't know if it's he or she, he or her investment arrangements. What I mean by that is that if you don't understand why you are investing, it's going to affect you maybe because down the line, 5 years, you expected that by 5 years you should be able to sell or resell your property. But when the land was sold to you, you should know the location where you're buying. If it's the right place for you, but you give yourself like 5 years, this place will be open. Although during the marketing advertisement of the estate, people may say in 5 years' time, this and that. But in reality, you look at the country itself and how things are done in the country, you find out that sometimes when you give 5 years, you yourself should have to add another. So they actually know. In some places, some developers will tell you, we're going to have these 3 years, and they will stick to that 3 years and they will deliver the estate. But some, due to unforeseen circumstances, can make them not to be able to achieve that, and that will affect your investment. Like she rightly said, that we have long term and short term. So the clients need to know if this my investment is short term or long term. So you will have to wait.
I totally agree with what Chidi just said. I think the problem here is the client does not have a deep knowledge of how real estate investment works. We've had this issue several times, and I even had a similar experience some times ago. The problem here is some clients does not have enough information about a property before buying. I have a similar experience, which was some times ago. A client told me he wanted to buy a particular property and he wants to resell in 6 months. So I told the client to wait in order for me to visit the property to see the location, the community, if it's a developed area. On getting there, the property is, sorry to say, in the middle of the forest. So I told the client, if you invest in this property, there's no way, or it will be difficult, rather say, for you to get someone that will buy this property for you, or for you to be able to resell this property. So I think clients need to have a full knowledge or full understanding of how real estate investment works. Also, the developers need to give a development timeline. Some companies do that. They when they are launching the property, they will inform their realtors to communicate this information to the client that this property will be developed in 10 years. This property will be developed in 4 or 5 years. So this are factors that clients need to consider.
But that does not mean
buying.
if they are developing in 4 or 5 years. Sometimes we've heard many developers say 4 or 5 years and you still go there and nothing is happening. So in that situation, what happens?
Well, that's true.
which is why I actually asked that question, because this property was sold as a buy and build estate. No, from my understanding, buy and build means I can build in the next 3 years, and by then you should have certain infrastructure on ground. So which is why I asked, is there a wait period? I know that for buy and hold properties, I mean, a property matures at up to 10 years. But if this was a buy and build estate and he's willing to sell in 5 years,
It's possible that where this estate is located, the developer must have done their own part of the internal development. And there could also be a significant presence of government infrastructure. But the possibility of you have 20 people who bought within an estate and only 2 persons are building on it. I wouldn't want to build in an estate where I'm the only person who is going to be the first person to live in it.
Yeah,
so security may be a concern. And when that delay, when you have people buying, for example, you have multiple people who buy multiple estates. So they are buying. Some people are buying to build, some people are buying for land banking.
Yeah.
So if you have majority of people who are buying for land banking purpose and not to build, the estate might be scanty. And sometimes you also see that during allocation, the estate will tell you, for those that are ready to build, it doesn't matter who first paid or where you get allocation. If you're ready to build, they're going to move you front. So that when people come and see the estate, they will have interest to develop. But in most cases, you see that you have a house here, you have another house inside, you have another house. And when somebody comes and probably somebody that wants to actually rebuy that land comes, the person may be like I can't buy here because there's no physical presence of other people who may be living within the estate. So it could be a challenge also.
That's true. That's true.
Like I said earlier, and like what Frank said, the phase of development, I think that's basically what's affecting these clients, to sell. It's not like Shango Tado is a bad idea. Shango Tado is still a good deal any day, anytime. And, apart from the fact that we have the Novel Mall, we have a lot of developers that have moved into the axis, and we have something coming up in Shango Tado, the biggest water park in Africa, coming up in Shango Tado. So I think that, like I said in my earlier, the quote I made, you buy land to wait. So irrespective of the fact that the client, he's in need of money, but the truth is, you might not be able to get somebody to buy it now because of the current realities, like they said, internal development and external development. And so people want to, if you're going to buy something, the value has to be there. Yeah. Just like that client, developers who are buying into Carroll Creek, they saw that a lot of people, were building houses, and they were, people were selling, developers, they build houses and they sell within a short time. And so there was that demand. And so because of, the area where that land is located, it's not so easy for him to sell. So the basic thing is he might still need to wait. If there's somewhere else where he can get other funds, that would be fine, because if he waits with what is coming, more in that axis, his land will still have more value. But for now, I think he just needs to wait, basically.
I still feel like this infrastructure of a thing is a major factor. I know of a developer who, when he's bringing up a property, the first thing he does is put infrastructure. And why I'm saying this is because I believe that some clients buy for different reasons and they are not sure exactly what those reasons are. So if, for instance, this client bought to, let's say, buy and hold, and 5 years down the line, he comes and he sees there's infrastructure. And he might decide to say, oh, you know what? I can start building. Why don't I buy and build? So I feel like it's driven because he can't see anything. He needs money. So why don't I sell? So, I think infrastructure plays, yes, because it can help adjust clients' expectation and their goals, and also tilt them in the right direction.
Structure, that's where developers have to do more. Developers have to do more, because we realtors, we are the foot soldiers and we just go with the flow. Or this property, we tell them everything that that we are not even sure of. So I think we need to begin to hold developers accountable, in terms of infrastructure. Although I know that this particular estate, I don't want to mention the name, at the time it was sold, there was no because now we get properties being sold all inclusive. So in terms of development fee, and I think I had the developer said a lot of people are not willing to pay development fee, and so which money are they going to use to develop the estate? So in as much as we hold developers accountable, investors need to know that it is when you have development, that's when your property will be matured. That's where the value, because it is developments that bring value, like I said, demand and scarcity. It is development. So as we are holding the clients, we should also be holding the developers. Make sure you pay your development fee, because some people, they're like, why would I pay development fee? I've paid. The money you pay for the land is different. You don't expect them to use the money you paid, because they bought the land. The land doesn't belong to them. So the money that you're paying, it is what they used to pay for the land. They are recouping what they paid for the land. And so you see that most times when they launch an estate, you see that the company try to do certain things just to make it attractive to investors. But it is when you make your payments, they are able to do more things. So I think this particular estate, a lot of people who invested in that property, they are refusing to pay development fee because they feel, oh, I'm buying it to hold it for the long haul. I'm not ready to sell, so why do I have to pay development fee? So that's one of the things that's affecting.
Yeah, more emphasis on just what you said, because I have a client. So many clients will call, and the first thing they will ask you is, what is developmental fee? Now, there is not as if they are willing to pay that money. Many of them are trying to just pay the regular fee, which is just the survey, documentation, and the price of the land, and then leave developmental fee to someone who they will be ready to resell it to. So in that case now, where would the developer find the fund to develop the estate that you are ready to resell to someone else in the future? So I think it is something that should also be looked into. So if you are expecting development in an estate, you should consider making developmental fee as part of the payment.
So some of them would say, well, they are not going to develop. Do you understand? They are not going to develop this land. We are buying for buying and the whole.
Then what happens to the value of the land?
Then I think
because automatically you are holding other people ransom. Other people who might have paid their developmental fee cannot develop because the estate is waiting for everybody to bring their funds. And you know why they are waiting for you to bring their fund? Inflation is coming in, and the money they have already collected from others may not even be enough to start the development.
So that is actually not the, I can say, I'm not saying for the developer, I'm not the investor, but what I'm saying is the developer will bring this out and tell them that, okay, this is what we need to do, because the developer also want to sell their property, and they have someone who is willing to pay for the land. The person is not ready to develop. It's not buying for development. The developer wants to sell the land. And they have someone, so they cannot, because of someone who did not pay developmental fee, because of that person, they will not collect that money that they are saying. So for an investor not to pay development is not an issue. So it's for a developer to know how to go about this and be ready for it. And some of them, once they get this money for the land, they are supposed to start making sure that there's that infrastructure that can make sure the
basic infrastructure.
No, I think you didn't get me.
I think
When you pay for the land,
Yeah.
because this is very common with a lot of clients.
Yeah.
When they pay for the money, I think it has to do with realtors. We have to communicate properly to our clients.
Okay.
The money that you pay for the land, it is not for development, except for now that a lot of properties come all inclusive.
Yeah.
But before now, when you pay for the land, you don't expect them. How would they, the developers, how would they run their business if the money that you pay for the land, they use it to be developing? And so that's where realtors come in. You have to encourage your clients and let them, because I do that a lot before we now sell the all-inclusive. I tell them the development fee, because a lot of people are scared when you say development fee. Oh, they say extra charges and all that stuff. And I tell them, if you want good road network, drainages, electricity, water, it is this development fee that you will use, they will use, because now you are buying inside an estate and you don't have this omonile coming breathing down your neck. Some of these funds, they have already used it to, put in, they know how they run their things with the family and all that, if they come in bought from family. So even if you're buying outside an estate, you're still going to pay. In fact, when you buy land from Omile, you pay when you want to do foundation. When you get to decking, you pay. When you get to roofing,
In fact, anytime a truck
And
comes to
these
your
guys,
land, you're
they
paying.
don't
Yes,
do
every
that.
truck comes in.
yes,
They don't do
yes,
anything
yes.
wherever you bought
You
this
still have
property.
to develop your environment
Yeah.
yourself.
I understood what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that now that the developers now know that it was actually their fault, they now make it all
All-inclusive, yeah.
Then when you say this is documentation, this is development, it's become so
Don't forget that many estates are no longer talking about developmental fee. They will tell you that there is no price for now.
Yes.
So
Like,
what in that situation?
Yes,
what happened?
that's what
Because
I actually wanted
have
to
some
say.
estates that-
Because just like he said, there are some estates. Once they are launching, they will not put development fee
Now.
now
most-
at all.
most
Even when
estates.
the clients ask what's the developmental fee, they will tell you for now,
For now, there is no information.
there's no information.
Several estates.
Wait till further notice. The inflation. So they're also scared because if they say it's 1 million naira, maybe about 2-3 years later, the inflation has gone up and all that, the developer will also run at loss. So I think the solution to this problem is, we've all talked about it, the developer should factor in the fee, developmental fee, documentation, and everything all together, so that when the client is paying for the property, the client is as well paying for the developmental fee and every other fees all together.
So
I think that's the
in a
solution.
scenario where the developer has a timeline of 6 years or 5 years in development, how would they factor in the developmental fee when they also know that inflation?
And we will discuss that in another series. Let's not digress.
No, that's a very big question.
Because if we start now, I'm not sure it's something we can handle. So we can tell that, I mean, it's a no-brainer. I think it's just, there has to be a balance, right? Like we rightly said, clients, developers just started putting an all-inclusive fee. But when real estate started, talking about 5 years ago, I think the idea was just for them to make land banking or buying of land quite affordable. So they were really hinting on more of buy the land, then develop later. And clients also, when they buy, they say development fee when I am ready to build. We don't know when you're ready to build. And everybody wants an attractive estate. There's no way an investor would come into an estate. I mean, two estates can sit side by side each other. If this one has infrastructure, it definitely commands much more than this one that has nothing. So for you, if you're an investor, you have a stake. You have a stake in this property and you want to resell. I mean, who are you reselling to? The person does not see any infrastructure. What should I buy? So if you also want your property to have value, you should also pay your development fee so developers can develop and you would even get more money from your investment. Okay, thank you guys so much. Okay, that's why I asked you guys in the beginning if you were ready, and you guys came ready. So thank you, Chidi. Thank you, Mercy. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Shine. It's been an engaging session. I hope you have clicked that subscribe button because we are going to be rounding off this series with your final thoughts. We have clearly stated that this property has appreciated, yes, but it has not matured. That is why he's not able to sell. So what are your final thoughts? What's your advice? For this client, because he's waiting to hear from us. He's really in need of money and that's why he wants to sell. And for me, it's looking like, an investment that he's trying to cut short because he needs money at his disposal. So guys, what would be your final thoughts? Chidi, what would you advise these clients to do?
I would tell this client to take example from corn, the seed of corn planted.
What's that?
Seed of corn or maize
Okay.
planted. So there's a time for this maize to sprout and start growing. And there's a time the farmer will have to wait for this maize to grow to a certain time. And while he's waiting, it's making sure that it clears the weed with the farm and make sure you water the maize. It will get to a particular point when it will start bringing out seed. Then you have to wait for that seed to mature before you harvest. And that is what this client should have to do. For me, this time is growing time. That is, the property is appreciating in value. It's growing. So the client should wait for this property to mature.
Do you by chance have a duration? Should you just wait forever? Do you have?
Well, okay, take example from what she said. 2 years down the line, the client never thought that 2 years after that she will be able to make that. Now, look at the price range from 80 million naira to 250 million naira. So while while the client is waiting, he will definitely make more money when he's finally ready to sell that property. Like when you put that corn, that maize in that, when it's sprouting and it's bringing out seed, definitely it's not going to bring only one. Bring like some of them will bring like 3, some of them will bring like 4 once. So I think you should wait.
Okay, without a duration. Thank you. Shine. Over to you, Shine.
Well, I think I would like to address the developers here.
Okay.
I think they should work more on developing their estates. We have a lot of estates on Ibeju-Lekki axis and Etiosa, a few parts of it, Etiosa local government from Shangotedo downward. I think they should work more on putting some basic things ready in the estates in order for investors that buy into the estate to be able to resell. The developer just needs to work more on it.
So developers, please do some more work. Okay, help our clients get value for their money. Messi, to you.
I'm going to say that clients need to begin to look at diversifying their portfolio. Okay, so most times I tell clients when you're buying properties, buy multiple plots. But irrespective of that, you should not, there's this saying that don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like the client have more than one plot, I think.
Yeah.
So in this case, when you're buying a property, you have to diversify your portfolio. You look at the short-term goal and the long-term goal, you know, based on your investment, your finances. You look at, okay, what can I put out now in the next 3 years? Would I be able to, you know, resell, looking at all the factors that we've talked about? So these clients now, like he said, areas in Shangotedo, that's the first phase. People bought properties there. Those properties had matured, they've appreciated, and they're able to sell. So in this case, when you're buying a property and you know that you will need some fund in the short term, then you have to look out for a short-term property. And when you're talking about a short-term property, it is in urban areas, built-up areas. Yeah. Because you don't go to put your money in an emerging area and you expect that in the short while you'll be able to resell. Yeah. So most times property in urban areas, you know, developed areas, they don't come cheap. Yeah. So you must be ready to spend that money. So instead of putting all the money like buying 2 plots or 3 plots in one place, okay, you put a certain amount where it's emerging and look for an urban area to buy so that when you want to sell, you can just wake up maybe after. I was talking to a client, okay, I had an inspection with some clients and they were telling me in his estate, there was a particular land somebody wanted to sell, and one of the fellow residents told him, don't buy that land, or you have to put a lot of, you have to do piling, blah, 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 blah. And so he was just like, maybe I shouldn't buy it. That person that was telling him not to buy, the person bought the land. And the land was going for 25 million. And the person sold it like in 2 months' time for 38 million. Wow. And so, if you're looking at the short term that you want to recoup your money on time, you have to look out for urban areas, you have to look out for developing areas, and those properties don't come cheap. You have to be ready to spend the money. So basically, this guy's property is appreciating, it has not matured, but he still have to wait because nobody's ready to buy it from him.
And if he has anyone in the urban area, he can also sell that.
Yeah.
Hopefully clients, you do have one in an urban area. Okay, Frank, your final thoughts.
There is nothing wrong when a client buys a property and wants to liquidate that property for cash. But here I'll be focusing more on the government because the government gets part of the VAT that is being paid through real estate investment. And if the government is a beneficiary of this industry, I feel that they have a whole lot of area to play here when it comes to urbanization or trying to spread development. So I feel that the urban planning of Lagos State should not just be a selected issue. It should be spread out so that wherever people find themselves or wherever people find they bought properties from, they can be able to reap the value of their investment, which includes making sure there is accessible road, making sure there is a transport hub, making sure that people don't have issues with families or indigenous people within those oceans. I'm sure there is law on Lagos about land grabbing. Yeah. So it has helped a lot to most cases. So I feel that in as much as the developer has to develop his estates, if the government doesn't build an accessible road to that development, I'm not sure anybody's going to buy it. So I feel that the government has a bigger role to play, especially since they are making money from real estate transactions. So I feel that bottom line, they have to also support individuals, developers, and also make sure that the environment is developed so that people can actually resell their property and get their money back.
Makes a lot of sense. So we're looking at development across communities. So wherever you buy land, anywhere, you can be able to either buy and build or resell.
Yes, the coastal road is a very important project that if the government should go on and probably launch that project, the whole axis from Ebemadesoya, Okwaja axis to Eleko is going to be open to a different kind of people. So I think those are part of the things the government should.
They're very cute. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Messi Gimo, for coming to the show. Thank you, Chidi. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Shine. Over to you, our viewers. I'm sure you've learned a thing or two. Now, we need you to understand that as a real estate investor, you definitely do need information. And that is why we thought it wise to come together to create this channel with you in mind, solely with you in mind, because we know that you have questions, you have issues that border on your investments. And we are here to talk about things literally nobody is willing to talk about. Now, for you to be part of this show, all you need to do is to hit that subscribe button. Stop looking at me, just touch that button right now and ensure that your bell notification is turned on so you do not miss out on any of our content, because trust me, we are going to be giving you lots of engaging and educative content that will help you in your investment decision. Also, if you have any issue whatsoever, any concern you'd like for us to discuss, all you have to do is just drop it in our comment section and we'll definitely reach out to you and ensure we give you answers that would also help you make the best real estate decisions. We also discuss property review. Like what we discussed today is one of our big issue series that border on investors and challenges they face. We also have a part of this show that caters to project review. You do not want to miss that, because for you to make the next investment, just before you buy that property, you need to know exactly why you are buying it, and that's why you have us here to help you make that buying decision seamless. So we'll come your way in our next series. My name is Lynda Iguta, Mesigimo, Chidi, Frank, and Shine, and we are the pioneers. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Bye.